internet, your theory, as you put it, is horseshit. My name is Matthew Kroll.
And I'm Shahir Dowd. Matt, is that classical music we're listening to?
You're damn right. And this is the only podcast about movies. Specifically, the only podcast about the film Star Trek Beyond.
Beyond what? Beyond
Thunderdome. Yes.
Dear listener, we did not plan that. We just spontaneously went Mad Max on that shit.
I mean, what else is new? Let's jizz over Mad Max some more. Yeah, so newest Star Trek movie. That's something I get excited about.
Is it though?
It is, and we're going to talk about it in a second. But let's do housekeeping before we even begin, Shahir.
Oh, it's always my job to do house cleaning. You don't clean up after yourself, man.
Nope.
I am such a abused domestic partner in
You
this.
should probably just
scenario.
bake me a pie.
Wow. If you enjoy what you hear, you can reach us at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com. We love to take fan requests, listener requests, movies you want to point out to us, or anything that we might have missed or forgotten. Also, hit us up on Twitter at onlymoviepod, and also try us on our Facebook page where Matt and I argue to no end, for no reason.
And sometimes you guys chime in and help us out. You're like our own little armies, so we really do appreciate when you engage us, either for or against the forces of evil.
There's a lot of discussion right now on the Facebook page, like specifically about Matt Damon's Great Wall of China movie.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
But also, bigger news than the Great Wall of China. We're going to be doing a pseudo-live version of this show in Seattle.
I think it's real.
Well, no, we're recording it live with a studio audience, but we'll then be, I'll put it up later. It's not going to be like broadcast live. That's why I said pseudo live. Anyway, we're going to be at PAX. We're going to be at the PAX convention in Seattle, PAX West, formerly PAX Prime, one of the largest gaming conventions, which is just an event that I love and look forward to every year. We're going to be doing a panel and an episode called Getting Good, G-U-D, at Making Video Game Movies, where we're going to discuss sort of how Hollywood has treated the conversion in the past and how they can fix it. And it's going to be me, Shahir, our buddy Red, who you've heard, and James Portnow from Extra Credits. And we're just going to rock fucking the Sphinx Theater's face-off at 6 p.m. on the 2nd
We got you.
of September.
Got your Lara Croft. We got your Mortal Kombats. We got your Super Mario Brothers. We got your World of Warcraft.
Isn't it adorable how Shahir tries to throw in the video game lingo? Like, we got your Lara Crofts. We got your Mario Brothers. We got your assassins that are creeding. Yeah. We got it all.
We got it all. Come on down.
We're going to train them before then.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about that particular brand of nerdiness right now.
Ooh.
We're talking about a different brand of nerdiness that boldly goes where no brand of nerdiness has gone before. Star Trek Beyond.
Okay, before we get into Star Trek Beyond, how much of a Star Trek fan/nerd are you?
Well, fun fact, for all of the 7 episodes of Star Wars stuff we did, I was more of a Star Trek kid than a Star Wars kid.
Same. If you go back and listen to those episodes, I think you will discern from that I am more of a Star Trek person than a Star Wars person.
I was more next gen.
Yep, same here.
And then Deep Space Nine didn't grab me. Then I loved Voyager for some reason.
Which was the one with Scott Bakula as the captain?
That's the next. That was Enterprise, which I did not watch.
No, neither did I.
And I've watched all the classic. And actually, it's so funny because when I was younger, I sort of skipped Deep Space because it was a little more serious, I guess, and a little more political. That's going to be one of my series that I'm going to leave on late night while I fall asleep, I think, is just going to start going through Deep Space Nine because I've heard great things.
Yeah.
I love Star Trek.
Funnily enough, my gateway back into Star Trek, which was a little bit of a disappointing gateway back into it, because it's so good, is Battlestar Galactica, the new series.
I could never get into it.
Really?
Yeah.
I think that show, it's right up there with the best TV shows ever made, I think.
I know, and I've heard it, and I've heard it from a lot of people I respect, and you.
Yeah.
And
I'm not a big sci-fi person, but after watching that, I really wanted to get back into Star Trek, so I started redoing Star Trek Next Gen.
Next Gen is great, and I've started to buy the, even though, I don't know if these ones are on Netflix. I know all the episodes are, but the Blu-rays of Next Generation are recaptures and they redo the special effects. It looks, the great part is it starts to look more like the classic series because you can start seeing like the threads in the suit and the carpet's not all perfect on the show. Like, I think that's really great. I love when the seams fall apart. It makes it feel more real to me.
What about the movies? Where are you on? Not just the J.J. Abrams, the original movies. They're
fine. Again, the original crew was never my super jam. I loved Generations when I was younger, when they met, when Kirk and Picard met via Whoopi Goldberg in time travel and a fucking ribbon.
The Whale?
No. This was after all the classics. This was the first Next Generation film.
Yeah.
called Star Trek Generations, I believe. And then First Contact is fucking dope as shit.
I actually, there's one thing in Generations. Actually, I was in a meeting recently where I brought it up because there's that scene where they're riding a horse. Like the two captains are riding a horse over the valley, over the ravine. And there's a moment in there that is so good where Kirk says to Picard, I could never do this. The reason I know this isn't real is because I was always afraid of this ravine. Yeah. And now I'm not. Yeah. I just think that's such a great moment of writing, and in a pretty average, okay film.
I thought that movie was great. The first two Next Gen movies were awesome, and the other two weren't that great. In fact, it was Nemesis and something else.
And I think Star Trek, The Voyage Home, is that the one where they time travel to try and get whales?
Something like that.
Yeah, I remember digging that as a kid.
So and then the first JJ reboot or side boot, I really liked, and I didn't think I would.
Yeah.
But they did the right amount of fan service with sort of splintering the timeline as opposed to ignoring it, and have an old Spock come back, and all that stuff I thought was neat. I thought the second film, Into Darkness, really, really fell flat for me, and maybe more flat than it actually deserved to feel because of the whole Benedict Cumberbatch isn't Khan, we called him this, but then guess what? There's a big dramatic reveal that he's Khan, which has no effect on any character in the film and therefore shouldn't have an effect on the audience, but yet everyone acts like it's a huge deal. It's one of those meta-breaking moments of a film that I'm just like, fuck you.
So my thing with the J.J. Abrams versions is that I too liked the first one. I thought it was a hell of a good time at the movie.
Yeah. They turned Star Trek. I was like, oh, they're going to turn it action-y. I was like, I actually don't mind it.
But I remember thinking they're doing a lot of hard work here to try and fracture, keep the old timeline, but fracture it into a new timeline.
I think it was worth it.
It kind of worked. I thought it set up the new franchise really well. The second film I actually watched at home on demand, and I wasn't paying a hell of a lot of attention, and I watched it post the whole Khan reveal was known on the internet, so I didn't care. And I didn't hate the movie. I didn't think it was I thought it was a fairly appropriate version of, sequel to that movie.
What bugged me about it, not beyond the Khan thing, is it didn't feel like anything classic Star Trek, and it didn't even feel like the other Star Trek. It felt like this weird other thing to me. Yeah. Like it was all sort of pseudo fan service, but I wasn't sure what fans you were trying to serve. So this film, something I really appreciated about this film is this felt to me like an episode of Star Trek.
We're going to get into it, but I think that is its greatest strength and also its greatest flaw.
I just think it's its greatest strength.
Well, you're a glass half full kind of guy?
That's not true. But no. I think just general impressions, pleasantly surprised.
Well, and the reason that I think that, the synopsis, and this is the IMDb synopsis, admittedly, which is always a little vague, but this could sound like any episode of Star Trek. The USS Enterprise crew explores the furthest reaches of uncharted space where they encounter a new ruthless enemy who puts them and everything the Federation stands for to the test.
I just signed on.
You signed on? You beamed yourself up for that one?
Yeah, because here's the thing. Star Trek, you just need to see I want to see the characters do a thing. Right. And sometimes it says a bunch of stuff there's anything where they do the holodeck and it gets into that sort of shit on Next Gen, or even Voyager's whole plight of trying to get home, even stranded in a certain way. There's certain things that they say. There's episodes that say things, and then there's sort of filler episodes. But the cool thing about the filler episodes to me is you just get to spend time with these characters that you really like. And I do feel like this new franchise hasn't given you that yet. Everything in these last two films, Into Darkness and the first one, was so big, nothing felt like it had time to breathe. And this one felt to me like they were a crew. There was a big sort of our crew is important, the crew. And that's something that's always been very present in Star Trek and wasn't quite, I know the first one's an origin, basically, and the second one, they were too focused on the Khan shit. Yeah. So, this one, yes, is the plot going to blow your mind? No. It had some interesting things to it. It did cool sci-fi Star Trek things to take a generic plot of a mysterious villain and do all this, and it made space battles a little bit cooler, and it did things in space in the battles that I hadn't seen before. It had a villain that, I figured it out about two-thirds through the movie, but I didn't care because it was neat. How his mechanic that he was built to, Idris Elba.
Yeah. Ooh, spoiler alert.
you know. But like, so yeah, it's I really dug it.
I enjoyed it while I was watching it. It does feel like an extended episode, and it's the same reason that I like the Simpsons movie, for example. I feel like the Simpsons movie is an extended episode of the Simpsons.
Sure.
And that if you enjoy Star Trek, it's perfectly serviceable. That's how I describe this film, as a perfectly serviceable, enjoyable time at the movie.
And I don't know if I'm singing more praises for it because I've been so disappointed with the tentpoliness outside of the Marvel universe this summer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's as bad as, say, Jurassic World.
I like Jurassic. Well, that was last year.
That was last year. What are the big tentpoles we've had this year?
I mean, Independence Day. What was the other huge one? I can't even remember that. Even I saw Jason Bourne.
Yeah.
And that was a snooze fest.
Yeah.
A snooze fest we've all seen before. So, and I love Matt Damon. I like that series a lot, but like, God, just fucking do something new with him. It's not all about his fucking past. Anyway,
so I do think that it's a very serviceable episode of Star Trek. It's a little, for my money, it misses some of the interesting philosophical questions that Star Trek would occasionally get into, and I think that we would see.
But Star Trek hasn't had that since the reboot a little bit.
And I think the older like
the TV show 100%. I'm saying the film.
And even the movies before J.J. Abrams took it over, they were less action focused and more philosophically focused. And so it's not. And the thing here is that the action is well done enough to be that, but it doesn't. Like the actual philosophical questions that this film is asking is not that interesting, and it's not gonna make you think outside of, hey, some cool shit's happening. I mean, there are a couple of reviews that say the problem with this Star Trek is that the solution to stuff in this new universe is, hey, let's punch it, which let's punch it, let's shoot it. And that's not necessarily what Star Trek was about. No, I don't want to be a Luddite about Star Trek and say that it's got to be.
But I will
canonical.
say this film, out of all of them, because the first one had red matter, and that was like the fucking red herring of like, the MacGuffin, I guess you'd say, of like, oh, this can do anything.
Yeah.
Side note, check out, and I'll actually post on the Facebook page when I post this episode. It's me and Steve Buja, who's been on the show before on Same Night Movie Review back in the day when we used to do videos. We did something I'm still very proud of. I don't know if you've watched it, Shahir.
I have watched it. I watched it in anticipation of this episode.
We did the first review, but we did it on a green screen, one cheap green screen where we filmed 6 of our friends and put them on the bridge of Next Generation to do this whole episode.
Wait, so you're saying you're not a Star Trek nerd?
Yeah, no, totally. Anyway, you'll check that out. It was really fun. But so the MacGuffin was the red matter.
Yeah.
The MacGuffin and the other one was sort of like just Khan's sort of presence. I can't even, to be honest, I don't even remember.
Right.
But this one, you're right. The solution is punching it. But for instance, the way, I don't want to say it yet because we're not into spoilers, but the way they do like the cool sort of push in space to get to a place near the end, we'll talk about it later and you'll know what I'm talking about. But like, yeah, they're punching it, but they're doing it in a cool, science-y way that felt Star Trek to me. In a DIY, we're fucked. Oh shit, we're using our smarts to do this. It's not just we have the bigger laser fucking photon torpedo garbage.
But I think that was kind of like they were kind of making up their own rules, which is fine.
It lived in Star Trek rules, though. Nothing in that felt odd to me.
The only thing is that I don't think there were. So the film presents this villain played by Idris Elba who has basically a major philosophical gripe with the Federation. I don't feel like that gripe was particularly interesting or well fleshed out.
It wasn't explored properly. No, I think the gripe is interesting because the gripe is, and I think we'll get into spoilers, I guess, now, because we're just going to talk through the movie after we sort of do this, right?
Well, I mean, just generally, obviously, I'm guessing that you really enjoyed it.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's a strong entry in this new franchise, and to a certain point, this is how I think non-crazy canonical franchise should be done. Like Marvel movies connect to each other so much like Lego pieces because they have pieces of pieces. And I know you fucking hate that.
Yeah.
But like, this is like, if I'm going to have an episodic thing, like James Bond's or Star Trek at this point, or any of these sort of things that like don't have to have like the hint for the next one beyond maybe a teaser moment at the end. Fast and the Furious, even to this point, like
directed by the same guy.
Sure. And you can totally tell. And it's nice.
Yeah.
It gave it a fresh coat of paint for me, at least in the action section. But it's just sort of like, I liked it. It was a totally standalone thing with maybe like, it had anything that had interconnectivity to it was like only if you wanted it to. It was like some stuff with Spock and like some other stuff.
And don't get me wrong, my problem, and we've done it already, like we've brought up the Marvel Cinematic Universe. My problem in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is that when they forsake the single story for this canonical thing, where they're like trying to tell bigger stories.
It's only happened twice.
It's happened a bunch, and it drives me nuts. And I think that this does a good job of being a self-contained story. I don't think that the story, like if this was a single episode of a new Star Trek TV show,
which is coming,
Discoveries. I think that would be great, and I would really enjoy it on that level. At the movies, again, I had a good time. I enjoyed myself. I thought initially the first conversation with Bones and Kirk was a little bit of that thing we talked about when we were talking about Green Room, which was that, you know, these two people didn't feel like they were talking to each other like friends. They felt like they were two writers trying to give you backstory on characters.
I didn't get that, but I could also see it, I guess. Like, I wasn't thinking that in the moment.
That first scene kind of felt that way to me, but as the movie went along, I kind of felt the more interrelationships between characters a little bit truer. You know, I liked the way in which the film relied upon the crew having to like unify against this person who who basically wanted to be an isolationist, you know, like a soldier of fortune kind of guy. There were things that kind of were questionable for me, like the fact that Kirk becomes like action movie hero number 5 towards the end of the movie, where he's riding a bike in like 5 different directions, kind of thing. It's okay. I don't hate it, but it kind of like, it just kind of, you know, like, could we do some other things here?
There were some holograms involved in that.
Yeah, hologram. I don't mind it. I guess my only thing is that I think Simon Pegg, the writer, who wrote Shaun of the Dead, which I think is amazing, who wrote
Simon Pegg is one of my favorite people on the planet.
He's awesome. I mean, go back and watch Spaced.
Space is great. Everything he's done is great.
Yeah, everything he's done is great. I think this is not as great as other things he's done, but it is perfectly serviceable. He's not the only writer in the film, by the way. Perfectly serviceable. I think Justin Lin does a really good job of like commanding this whole universe, and they do a really elegant job of using one thing that I just noted, like using CG camera moves. They do a really, really elegant job of like traveling from one part of the USS Enterprise to another part really elegantly. And it was like, it felt justified. It felt like, it didn't feel like they were just kind of like showing off, hey, we can move in any direction. It kind of worked for the whole story. And you know, the Yorktown at the end, which is a really good example of like an anti-gravity city, which is something that we also saw in that, I want to say the Jason Bourne movie, but Elysium, you know, is kind of like similar sort of like inverted gravity works in weird ways in this world thing. I do think Idris Elba, I love everything he's in. I think he's awesome.
And his name in this movie is Crawl, so it's so close to my name that I'm just going to latch on.
I think he does the best he can with a sort of, it's not underdeveloped, but it's just a half-baked kind of idea.
Here's the thing. I think the idea is phenomenal. I've seen it in episodes of Star Trek. Basically, let's get to spoilers. 3, 2, 1.
We hope you've watched the movie at this point.
You're beamed. That was a beaming noise. Basically, his sole thing of the Federation is he was a soldier back in the day before the Federation was formed, and he crash-landed through this nebula on this planet.
Yeah.
And he was sort of left there and to sort of fend for himself. Was like a mining colony of like another species or something, and he got this technology that kind of let him. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The point of the
doesn't make sense.
No, but the point of the matter is he is basically, it's actually a very Metal Gear Solid argument. He's a soldier that has put himself out of business in a weird way.
Right.
And what does a society that was won by soldiers do with its soldiers once there's peace? And there's this whole, that's a big canonical thing in Metal Gear, in the Metal Gear series. It's like soldiers want a soldieristic society to keep soldiering.
Want war. Yeah. They need a war.
And so when he doesn't have a war anymore, he's going to go fucking start one.
Well, it's not just that. He's also, he feels like the Federation abandoned him. You know, and
they did. They once they were done with soldiers, they abandoned their soldiers in a weird way.
Matt Singer over at Screen Crush makes a really good argument that this is the film that we need in the age of the Brexit and the age of Donald Trump's fear mongering as the as the Republican nominee, is that we need a film that champions unity over isolationism and over fear mongering, which is essentially what Crawl is about.
And there's even some lines as being like, your reliance on each other is your weakness, and it's like, no, it's our strength or something like shit like that. Yeah, no,
your unity is not your strength, it's your weakness. I think that's an interesting argument to make, but when the film falls into let's punch it, it kind of gets lost. And I'm kind of, Crawl's end game in this feels very like, I'm just a madman and I want to like blow shit up.
But no, it turns into that because his plan, and again, we're skipping to the end, but his plan keeps getting thwarted like 80% every time, so he gets more and more desperate, and then at the end, it's blow things up. Before, his whole thing is to cause enough chaos to get more ships to come in, to get more ships to then go cause chaos on the space station that has the greatest technology, and then he can use that as his front for his war. Like, he's not just trying to blow up that station in the beginning. He's trying to take it over and use it. When that fails due to some very cool shit, in my opinion, then he's like, well, fuck everybody. Then he goes full on suicide bomber, basically.
Right. And I think it's an interesting setup. It's kind of half baked, and the film
doesn't spend enough time with it, to be honest.
Yeah, the film doesn't spend enough time in it, and I don't think the film like believes in it enough as an idea on its own to not just have cool shit happen.
It felt like either in the scripting or in the cutting room floor of the actual edit that those points, a lot of stuff that would have structurally made that hit home harder was probably lost to leave more room for boom boom.
And it's weird because I think the original Star Trek movies, like favored that kind of philosophical stuff over the bang bangs. And there's a part of me that, like the thing that saddens me about modern blockbusters is that they think they should be bang bangs, whereas like a Jurassic Park, for example, wasn't a bang bang movie.
Here's the thing. Blockbusters kind of need to be, if you're calling it a blockbuster. Star Trek, the movies, the original movies, weren't blockbusters. They were just great movies. Like, I would never call...
So are we saying by definition a blockbuster is inherently a lesser movie?
I'm saying it's always akin to more of an action fare. I'm not going to call it lesser because I don't think it is.
But like Die Hard is, Die Hard, for example, is an excellent action movie.
That's a blockbuster too.
But it's not dumb.
But this is what I'm saying. I will forgive films that I know straight going in are sort of blockbuster action-y movies for more stuff than it is. And I know by this time, it's the third go of this fucking movie, and now directed by the Fast and the Furious guy. I walked in knowing what I was going to get.
Right.
So
I wish there was a balance where this film could exist in its exact form, and that there were other movies like...
I feel like we're getting that in other sci-fi films, like, what's it called? Ex Machina, that was what I was thinking.
I want to see like a good balance.
But you know what I mean? But like, that's a great movie. That's a fantastic movie. Not a blockbuster, which is fine. It shouldn't be. And blockbuster is such a dumb term because it's originally like about having lines wrap around the block and like all that shit.
Well, also just making money.
Right. I mean, that's the akin to it. But like,
I don't have a problem with this movie being making a shit ton of money, but I just, I hope there's a balance that can be struck a little more with like making something that's thought-provoking.
What I liked about this movie is the action in it always felt clever or clever enough. Mm-hmm. Very rarely was there a moment where it's like, oh, they're just shooting shit like normal. So let's just sort of break down so we can actually get moving here. Yeah. So the Enterprise, even Kirk has a big captain's log in the beginning about how he's just getting kind of bored. Yeah. Like, they've been out there for 3 years, they're just exploring it, and he's like, if the universe is actually infinite, what the fuck are we doing?
Right.
Like, I don't know. It's sort of, he's starting to question himself because he basically joined Starfleet on a dare. I like that sort of that thing. And like Bones is trying to tell him you did it to prove yourself, like you could be like your father and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, point being, and I'm sorry, I'm sniffling. You can hear it a little bit. I have a cold.
Yeah.
The Enterprise docks at the Yorktown, which is the most technologically advanced space station, and then they get a distress call from a ship inside of a nebula that it's near that they basically needs to go and rescue a crashed starship of an alien race that's apparently home to the nebula. So they just assign the Enterprise to go do it, and they go in.
Admittedly, I was like, shouldn't you be taking some protection with you? Like, why do you trust this person inherently? I
mean, because it's the Federation and they're dumb. Yeah, and they're trusting.
It's one of those things I didn't care when it was happening in the movie. It's kind of one of those things. Oh, maybe you should have. But then
once again, in the nebula,
everything I'm saying would like fail the logic of the film as it exists right now. And I wouldn't want to do that. I was just kind of curious if we could go in another direction.
I don't quite get what you mean by that.
Well, I'm saying like if the Federation were smart and they wouldn't go in, then the movie would kind of stop. You know what I mean?
But the Federation, I mean, I think they're smart enough because the Enterprise is one of the most technologically advanced ships they have. I think they figure it's going to be fine. They don't know what's waiting in that nebula. They don't.
Right.
Because they can't get sensors and all that shit.
And they haven't been at war for a while.
Yeah.
So they're not prepared for that kind of thing.
It's almost like inside the nebula, the planet that Carl is on is like a time capsule almost.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they fly in the nebula. And this is what I'm talking about the boom being a little different than we normally see. Basically, Krull controls these sort of hive mind, smaller ships that basically, I believe, and later on you find out they're like old mining equipment from another race, which makes sense why they fly and attack the sort of way that they do. Basically, they're a giant swarm of tiny, tiny ships that tears the Enterprise a fucking new one by basically crashing into it a shit ton.
Yeah.
Even to the point that's how they board. It latches in and then it opens. And then I thought the armor of this sort of like race of people was really fucking cool. And like the action piece here felt fresh enough to me because I hadn't seen like here's basically a bunch of giant metal space bees drilling through the fucking Enterprise and ripping it apart in really interesting ways. We've seen the Enterprise crash
destroyed
a couple
every time.
No, but not every time. That's something I've also really sort of appreciated about.
Hasn't the Enterprise been destroyed in every movie now?
No.
In every new Star Trek movie.
No. So the first one, it doesn't get destroyed. Second one, it crash lands in the water, but then they hide in the water.
Right.
And this is the first one in the new one that it gets blowed to shit.
Right. Cut its throat.
Yeah. Which is awesome because they ripped the fucking top off.
Yeah.
It's happened, I believe, once in the Next Generation films.
Yeah.
And then I bet you it happened in the old films as well at some point.
At some point.
But it's seriously, but like the restraint on that, I could see a franchise being like, it's going to blow up every time. Like I totally get that.
Yeah, completely.
So it gets fucked up, and that's whole sequence, even down to how they crash and they have to disengage the saucer section from the remaining little bits, like, and they're trying to escape, and it feels very real, like the nacelles get cut off so they can't go to warp and they can't figure it out, and they're just getting fucked up.
Yeah.
And then they crash on this planet, and they all get separated.
Yeah.
Some get away in escape pods, some are in the other part of the ship, some are in the saucer section, like that whole nonsense. And it forms a nice, like, oh fuck, teams broke up. Like it was very unified before, and now they got to get unified again.
Yeah.
And so they land on this planet, and I kind of appreciate this because we haven't seen in this current iteration of Star Trek them in survivalist mode.
Yeah.
And I like that. A couple different things happen. Bones and Spock are stuck together. Spock is injured.
Yeah.
And they have some great sort of dichotomy between each other.
And it's good to see Bones and Spock as opposed to Spock and Kirk.
And Carl Urban is so fucking good.
New Zealander from my hometown.
He's so good as Bones. He's so good in everything. I still pray for a day when Dredd gets a sequel.
Aren't they working on an Amazon thing
Who
for
the
that?
fuck knows?
Yeah.
And, so that's good. You get that dichotomy. Uhura is locked away with Krull, I believe, along with a lot of the other crew.
And she's with John Chu's character.
Sulu.
Sulu.
Who is gay now.
I love that it's not a thing. It's not a deal.
It's not a deal, which is, it was nice. But I found that what I found interesting was...
and by the way, his partner in the film is the other writer, Doug Jing.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
What's his name? Original Sulu. Why can I not remember his name? George Takei.
Yeah.
He was like a little bit miffed about it.
Which is weird because he's
yeah, but himself. I guess, and I respect that he's miffed about it because he's like, that's great and everything, but that's not the character. Like the character wasn't gay.
I don't know. I think, yeah, but
it's such a non-thing. You're absolutely right. But I found it very interesting that they,
what I liked about it was that being in a theater with a big group of people, and it was like, the film was basically saying this is the stakes for this character is his partner and his child
is on that space station.
Is on that space station. Yep. And it didn't matter that there was like
100%.
And I was like, we need to see more of that.
I know. And it's funny because the storyteller in me was like, what the fuck? We're only seeing this for a second. This is just a thing. What the hell? Not that he's gay, just that it's a relationship that was never developed and we see it for 3 seconds.
But he's not a main character.
But I understand. But then the actual no, this is a great thing for film in general, just to have it be a thing of normalcy. This is fucking Star Trek.
No,
this is supposed to be a thing of unity and like the way the human race sort of moves on from being fucking idiots like a lot of us are currently.
Yeah,
so it's like, I did, upon reflection, I appreciated it more for its brevity because they made it not a thing.
Yeah, exactly. I like that it was not a thing, and I think we've made it more of a thing than it was in the movie. It's like,
But I like us calling out that it's not a thing.
yeah, if that makes sense. And what's cool about it is he could equally have been he could have equally had a wife on that planet.
Sure.
But it doesn't matter, like it's, and I kind of like they do it with such brevity that when it happens and when you see like a little photo of the little girl, you realize what's at stake for this character.
100%. Who else gets separated? Kirk gets alone, I think. Scotty gets alone.
Kirk is placed with Chekhov, the late great Anton Yelchin, unfortunately.
Yep, that's right.
And they eventually meet up. Scotty gets hooked up with this new character.
Side note, I love that Simon Pegg wrote himself to be the one that meets the hot female alien.
Well, I think what was cool is that he didn't write himself to be the biggest character in the film. He wrote himself to be like
but what I love is, and there's no love interest between those two characters, your sort of love story at all. But like, it's always him talking to her. I just thought it was funny that the writer's like, yeah, I'm gonna be with the attractive alien girl this time. Fuck you, Kirk.
No, I just think it was kind of like I like that he didn't write himself a bigger role in the movie. He wrote himself like he wrote
himself the appropriate role for Scotty.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a great Scotty.
He is
everyone in this thing is a great whoever the fuck they are.
They're a great version of whoever they. I mean, like I was reading Film Crit Hulk, if anyone reads that, which is a film critic who writes himself as the Hulk, and he wrote this really interesting essay about J.J. Abrams recently, and his distaste for J.J. Abrams' work in some capacity.
Sure.
But one of the things he did point out, and I think it's really worth pointing out, is he thought that J.J. Abrams might be one of the best people at casting in Hollywood. Like everyone he casts.
I mean, I can't think of a miscast he's done.
No, and everyone that he's cast in this film is pretty perfectly cast. Now, admittedly, they're cast to reflect older characters,
sure,
and they do it so well. But so the question mark there is could you cast in a new way to reflect a new character?
Right.
Is he good at that? And I don't know if he is. But yeah, everyone in this film is just cast so perfectly. Spock is, Zachary Quinto as Spock, Carl Urban as Bones, Pig as
Zoe Saldana.
Yeah, Zoe Saldana as Uhura. Everyone is just so good in their roles.
Lieutenant Uhura. Crawl's fucking accent with it, trying to say Uhura, was like hilarious.
It is weird to me that you cast like potentially like is Idris Elba considered the sexiest man alive? Is he like
but I liked it because I knew they'd eventually reveal his real face behind his alien face.
But even then he was kind of like still misshapen. But it was like
no, but you see like logs of him and shit.
Yeah. But it was like you like for 3/4 of this movie he's hiding behind like a huge prosthetic makeup.
But isn't that cool though? Like, isn't that like? Because they did look Eric Bana, who is not nearly the star that Idris is, but like in the first one, I thought what looked fucking stupid with his stupid tattoos and stupid ears and stupid plot.
Right.
But like, and then get Benedict Cumberbatch is just Benedict Cumberbatch being fucking like pseudo awesome.
I just like the marquee value of having Idris Elba in your movie and then kind of like hiding him.
But look, this is what happens when you put fucking skilled actors in movie monster makeup. It helps it.
Right.
Frank Langella played Skeletor, for Christ's sake.
Oh, we're going back. Actually, admittedly, Frank Langella is Skeletor.
Did fucking gangbusters.
Frank Langella was not a name like Idris Elba when he did Skeletor.
He was pretty big.
He wasn't that big when he did Skeletor.
He was theater big.
He was known to be a a good actor.
But what I'm saying is when
Idris
you get
Elba
a good
has
actor,
marquee value.
I know, but when you get a good actor, that's a ballsy move for a film to do, to put him in a bunch of makeup, but it also makes that character I know you kind of said you thought it was weak. I still think, even with Benedict Cumberbatch being who he is and his performance that he did as Khan or whatever the fuck his name was before, Idris Elba is the best villain that this iteration of Star Trek has had. He had the most believable thing.
I would agree with that. I don't think he's a great villain. I don't think he's a great.
No, he's
a
not,
great villain.
He's
for
not
a movie.
like, yeah.
And you talk about your movie is only as good as your villain.
Right,
is.
and I think this one, especially for the story that it's trying to tell, is beyond serviceable. I think it's good. I think it's not great. You're not going to think about the motivations of this villain that much after you listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
But like, it's just he was solid. I
think it's the word we keep coming back to for this movie, which is that it's very serviceable.
Mm-hmm.
And
serviceable. No, I don't want to keep saying serviceable. This is one step up from serviceable. It is solid. You can shake this thing.
Yeah.
You could try to find cracks in it. Yeah, you're going to see 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever the fuck. But the strength of the entire thing as a whole is enough where the cracks don't matter, at least for me.
No, I agree. And more so than other movies that we've reviewed.
This summer
and last summer as well. I think this one holds up much better. Like it's less offensive to me than Jurassic World.
You and Jurassic World. It's funny. Every time you give Jurassic World shit, I'm like, I think I like that movie. I want to go watch it.
Yeah, no. You know what's funny is I re-listened to our review of it just recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it was interesting to listen to because you basically agree with me about everything that's wrong with this movie.
But I like it.
And then in the end you go, but I'll still go see it. And I'm like,
but I like it.
No, that's not what you
like
should
it.
do. Because you literally point out everything, and they're not like little things.
I know.
They're like everything is wrong with this
Chris
movie.
Pratt and CG dinosaurs, bro. You and me dance off. Let's go. That's a mix. I did a Guardians reference. I'm sorry. Anyway,
good.
but yeah, that's right. Ladies and gentlemen, Shahir declined my dance off request. But
for good reason. I think I saved you. I saved the audience. If they could see it, it would be.
Nope,
horrible.
it's going to be silence and grunting. That's all you're going to hear. So they have to get back together. Oh, so Jayla, who played Jayla, the girl that Simon Pegg
Sophia
was-
Boutella.
Yeah, she was great. She was a good character too, I thought.
Yeah, she had a lot of spunk.
She had spunk, and she had a lot of funny lines that, like, she kept calling James T. Like that.
Are we in
thing.
spoilers yet?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so there was the only thing about her was that I felt like she had earned her place among in the USS Enterprise. But at the end they were like, oh, here you can go join the Federation as a recruit. And I was like, I'm sorry, I think she just saved your crew. I
would have liked to have seen her, honestly, and maybe they will. I don't know. Like, maybe she'll go through the thing and then come back. Like, she seems like a character. She seems like the Worf character. She seems like
she should be on the Enterprise with Scotty.
The Watto. Yeah, they should. Yeah,
yeah.
She should be a crew member now. She was good enough to be a crew member.
Yeah. And so when they were like,
go away.
Yeah, and when Kirk was like, now here's your entry into the recruit program. You're gonna have to wear a uniform, but don't listen to. I was like,
and it was kind of silly because Kirk barely did that.
Yeah, exactly.
He became a Star Trek captain in one fucking day
on a dare.
Yeah, he's that good.
And I think the things with Kirk, Kirk's motivation to he's bored in space, and bored of the mission. And then there's an interesting conversation, the one I pointed out early on, where Kirk is kind of
the birthday conversation. With Bones?
he's about to have he's about to become older than his dad was. I think that's an interesting.
That'll fuck you up.
Motivation. It's a little bit like classic hero movie. Am I better than my dad thing? And it kind of doesn't go anywhere. And there's a weird moment where I was expecting. Thor to turn up in the movie at some point.
He's actually going to be in the next one, apparently, somehow.
Yeah, but when the bike, they show the bike, and it was like my dad had one of these. I was like in my brain kind of going, this is your dad's bike, man.
Oh, I didn't think that.
And that we would watch some video and that would resolve the Kirk dilemma.
I see.
In the film. And it didn't. So it's kind of like one of those things that it's not bad. It's just kind of half baked. And you feel like the film, it gets pulled in two directions, which is one that it has some interesting ideas, and then the other side of it is, but we need to blow shit and punch shit.
You know what I loved about this movie? Didn't focus on Spock again. I feel like the last two focus real hard on Spock.
Yeah.
And the first one you kind of have to, and the second one...
They gave him enough motivation.
Yeah. And I like Zachary Quinto as Spock. I think he's great.
Yeah.
He has great lines. The chemistry with every character is wonderful.
Yeah.
Down to the tracking device on Uhura, which he doesn't really mean to make it that creepy, but he gives her a rock that's a necklace from Vulcan, but it has a specific radioactive isotope that he uses to track it, and Bones calls him out. They were doing it for a good reason, to save them. He's like, so you gave your girlfriend a homing device.
Yeah, no.
You low-jacked your girlfriend.
I mean, it's all really good stuff. And now I'm going to show my age here a little bit, which is that this is how I know I've gotten old, which is that I haven't seen a single Hunger Games movie, and I haven't seen a single Fast and the Furious movie.
Really?
I have not seen a single one, and I hear they're great. And the reason I haven't seen them is that there's so many now that I'm like, I'm gonna have to sit through all of them to get.
You know what? And I'm not saying we're gonna do this.
Yeah.
But we should do what we did
with Star
Wars, with Fast and the Furious.
No. We're never doing that again.
Why?
What we're gonna do is we're gonna do like the Krzysztof Kieslowski series, and I'm gonna make you sit through films that you've never watched that I have that I love.
Okay, but then after that, when we're at like Fast 10 or whatever, then we'll do those.
Are they doing another Fast and the Furious?
Are they gonna stop?
Of course. I haven't seen any of them, and I've heard people rave about them as this, like, they're passion.
They started as garbage. Now they're really great.
Yeah, and the only reason I haven't done them is kind of like I feel like I have to start at the beginning, and maybe I don't. Like there's 8.
You know the order, right?
Yeah, because it's like 1, 3,
1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 3, 7, 8.
Right. Yeah. See, like that kind of stuff just like puts me. Like the commitment to do that really puts me off like starting on those things. And I might have seen little bits and pieces of the first one, and I think I've seen little bits and pieces of Tokyo Drift. A friend of mine was. I have car friends in New Zealand who love to have them on when we were around at his place, and so I would see little pieces of them, and I was not that into. I'm not much of a car guy.
So would you say for those 15 seconds or less, you weren't free?
I wasn't free?
Sorry, that was a line from the movie that I just changed to be about you. Don't worry about it, Shahir. You're getting old is what you're saying.
I'm getting old. But so I haven't seen Justin Lin. Now, and again, he's a filmmaker I've known about because of a film that he did called Better Luck Tomorrow, which was kind of the champion, like championed as an Asian American independent film that some people call the Do the Right Thing for Asian Americans.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which I haven't seen. And
I haven't seen it either. That sounds interesting.
I've always been meaning to see that. And since Better Luck Tomorrow, he got propelled into this big blockbuster tentpole kind of world.
As they do.
I mean, he went straight from Better Luck Tomorrow to Annapolis, which was, I believe that was a Robert De Niro action film. Might have been Robert. No, sorry, it was James Franco. And
yeah, I get that mixed up all the time.
Yeah, no, sorry about that. And then he went right up into Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. The next Fast and the Furious did a couple episodes of Community, Fast 5, Fast 6. Like a couple episodes of True Detective. And now he's doing a Bourne film. He's kind of gone from like what I had.
He's doing the next Bourne movie?
He's doing the next Jeremy Renner Bourne movie.
Good though. You know what? I didn't see the Jeremy Renner one, but after this last Jason Bourne movie, I can't see
Paul
it.
Greengrass is a great filmmaker, and I think Paul Greengrass is.
But he's made the same movie now 4 times.
Yeah, even 5 times, I think, if you count the Green Zone movie.
I don't know.
But Paul Greengrass, I think, is a really interesting, well thought action movie maker.
I would love to see a Jason Bourne movie directed.
And he's doing
guy.
like Space Jam 2. So I'm like, he's kind of, for lack of a better word, drifted away from the thing that I was kind of initially interested in him doing. But from what I hear, people really dig his action movie directing chops. And from what I saw in this movie, I was impressed by his command of the scale of this movie.
So you're never confused in any of the space or fight scenes, which is amazing because they do crazy shit in them.
Yeah.
Something that Jayla does, she fights with holograms and she hides like the crash ship that eventually Idris Elba came from and like they hide and eventually take off the planet. She fights with holograms, so she rescues Kirk and Scotty from some bad guys on the planet, and she throws down this hologram, and then there's like 3 of them, and she does some really crazy fight scenes with these holograms, and then later on, the holograms hide the ship, and then even when you were talking about the motorcycle stuff, which, again, I saw the motorcycle in the trailer, and I was like, fuck you. But they wrote it in serviceable enough. Like, it was fine. Because they eventually hide back on the Yorktown, which is the crash ship that Idris Elba and his warriors pre-Federation did, and Jayla hides it so she doesn't get discovered. And in it is an old style motorcycle that we talked about before.
Which he says his dad had one of these. And again, it feels like it's a
little bit of a wasted moment, I think.
Yeah, it's such a big thing. Given that his initial point is like, am I better than my dad now? It seems like such a strange moment to have and not like have it go anywhere.
Sure.
But then again, if it did go somewhere, we'd probably be a little bit dissatisfied because that's not a huge, interesting reveal. No.
So they eventually, when they're mounting their big rescue, because all of the real crew, the red shirts, all the red shirts in Uhura and Sulu are imprisoned. And when they're doing that, like Kirk is riding around and there's like 9 Kirks on motorcycles. And like that to me, This is what I liked about it because it was apt.
Yeah.
The director's really good at vehicle stuff, right? He is. I mean, that's what it's his bread and butter at this point.
Yeah.
So he worked in a way where they could have a vehicle thing like that in crazy sci-fi town, and it felt real and good and physical, because a lot of the other fast action that's not hand to hand is space stuff. Now the space stuff is cool and different feeling, and I appreciate that. But
and like I said, I think there was a really good, elegant command of the scale of the space visual effects. You know, like traveling from. There was a really cool shot where we're seeing someone run through a hallway. The camera then lifts up over the top of the USS Enterprise, and then we traverse across the top of the USS Enterprise to another part where we see them join up with another group. And it was like, that's a really good use of the way, you know, it's a complete CGI shot, but it's a really good use of CGI to give you a sense of spatial geography.
100%.
And then the swarm with the beehives, which leads up to my favorite moment in the movie, you know, with like playing classical music to like disrupt the hives.
The whole thing is because it's based on old technology, and they only have so much old technology. Jayla,
they basically have an iPod.
Yeah, Jayla has an iPod basically of all these old, what Star Trek considers classical music.
My favorite, Public Enemy is represented there. Fight the power, do the right thing.
Yeah, and then eventually Sabotage by the Beastie Boys, which the initial trailer pushback when they played that was super huge, and I thought it worked well for the trailer.
I remember seeing that initial trailer, because I always watch the initial trailer if I'm mildly interested in the movie. And I saw the initial trailer, and it didn't look like a good movie from that initial.
I thought it did.
From that very, very initial teaser.
I thought it felt different enough where I was interested in it. Like, because again, the last one sort of towed the line, and I was like, I might have been done with it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought it was brave, and I liked that they did it.
Yeah.
So eventually Krull leaves the planet to go take over the thing. They rescue the crew rescues the people. They get back on the what was the ship's called again? The crash ship.
Yorktown. Oh, the not the Enterprise, but the.
You said it before. We lost it. Fitzgerald. No.
Franklin.
No.
Franklin. I'm gonna go with Franklin.
The other ship that Jayla has been using as her home. Might have been Franklin.
Yeah.
And then they have to go stop the swarm, and they're trying to figure out how to do it with such limited resources. In a very Star Trek science-y way, they discover that old school radio bands is what the swarm uses to sort of speak to each other. So they fly around, and they end up just blaring Beastie Boys into space and surfing this wave of hive ships and exploding them along the way. It was, again, yes, it's a big blow-up stupid moment, but done with smart intentions and detail that made it sci-fi enough where I'm like, this is Star Trek.
And also, I mean, just in terms of like having a moment that actually genuinely excites you with like a cohesion between music, sound, and visuals, it's a genuine, like it achieves what like the great moments in Mad Max Fury Road does, which is like good score. That, you know, like understanding the balance of how to get people excited in the seats.
I was shocked how much I enjoyed the space battle in this, because I got to be honest, I haven't enjoyed space battle in a long time. Maybe, I mean, I'm trying to think of even the space battle stuff in Guardians. That wasn't a space battle, it was a planet battle, I guess, and that was cool. But like, other than that, when's the last time I got real excited about spaceships firing at each other? And I can't think of it. Like, that's not something that... Firefly, Serenity. That was the last time, and that's a long time ago.
Yeah.
So, like...
Not a Wing Commander fan?
No, but we'll be talking about that on our panel, perhaps. So, yeah, like, it just felt very fresh to me. And then, of course, after that, and they get to the space station, and Krull's plan falls apart, and it's revealed a little bit more who he is. Then it becomes a little more fisticuffy and normal, and like... And
I didn't understand...
The fight in the gravity well or whatever.
No, I didn't understand.
We brushed over the ancient weapon MacGuffin. There's always a MacGuffin on these fucking
there's
things.
an ancient weapon that can destroy all of humanity, and it's fine. It's you know, it does.
It's just another thing that like eats shit.
Yeah, it's cool. And but I didn't understand what his end game was. But
his
I guess
end game was to take over the station and then use it as a beachhead to start another war. That got fucked up by Beastie Boys.
So he was just gonna then destroy it.
He was going to use that material to eat away all of the people on the ship or the space station and then take over the space station.
But how is he going to survive? It seems.
Well, he was going to launch it in. He wasn't originally supposed to be there, and then when he had to be there because everything went to shit, he just said fuck it and became a suicide bomber.
It's funny because the Brexit comparison that Matt Singer makes kind of makes sense because it's not logical what he does. It's kind of like, let's just blow everything up that we stand for.
Well, it's not logical when he starts to lose. He becomes a psychopath.
Yeah. But again, it's not, the movie doesn't break for me. It still holds up. It's just one of those things. I'm like, I'm not sure what you're thinking here. And I'm not that interested in, like, your end game is not that interesting to me. It's just kind of like, you're just a crazy person.
Yes and no. I think it devolves because then granted, it's a zero gravity fist fight and there's some cool sort of moments where they're like free falling and shit.
Yeah, but that's not. Again, I'm not interested. Like, to me, action has to be based on ideas. Like, you have to have like a solid foundation of ideas before the action to like.
I guess it was solid enough for me. I get what you're saying, and I could see where it could fall flat.
But it didn't. Like I said, it didn't break it.
Sure,
it was good enough. Like, and it's a good time at the movies. I didn't hate it, and I enjoyed kind of a lot of it.
Yeah,
which is surprising.
Yeah, and I think that's
for me.
Yeah,
the guy who hates fun, according to you, to say I think this is a fun time at the movies,
and according to everyone. Wait, why do you got to point out always?
Everyone thinks I hate fun.
Everyone thinks everyone knows you hate fun. It's not even a thought.
Right? Okay. I got it. I'll just write that on my T-shirts from now on.
You should.
So whenever I walk into a room, people know that.
Tag on the underwear. Shahir parentheses hates fun,
and I show my underwear to people because
you're a crazy person.
Okay, got it. All right, now we've got that settled. Look, for me to, I guess we're getting into final thoughts.
Final thoughts.
For me to even say that I think this is a fun time at the movies, is kind of rare. I don't think there are things about it that are kind of like, I wish we'd done that better. But the things that I'm suggesting are almost like a different movie.
Sure.
And so
it's a different form of Star Trek.
Yeah, and so it's unfair for me to like point those things out.
Wow.
And,
have you grown as a person?
Oh God, I've just listened to you for too long, and you're horseshit.
What?
But so it's, as far as escapism goes, and for most of the movies that we reviewed and have had to watch this, I think this is an example of the kind of film that if you want to see a popcorny kind of fun, quick, thing to get you out of your own headspace for a couple of hours, this should be the kind of thing that you would do.
Yeah.
And I think the filmmakers do a good job in that respect.
Yeah.
So go see it.
Agreed.
Oh my God.
Yeah. You kind of said it. Again, the only thing I'd add to that, because I completely 100% agree with everything you said there, is I just think franchise films should do this. I think, for instance, for all of the love that I do give Marvel,
mm-hmm.
like, I think Marvel and maybe DC, if they can fucking ever get their head out of their ass, I think that should be their thing. I think it should be a comic booky thing. I don't want to see my fucking James Bonds all mixed together. I don't want to see it. Like, I didn't mind Spectre, but it did kind of, upon reflection, really start to bug me that, like, oh, you just at the end of the day Avenger to this shit.
Yeah.
So I don't want to see that. I want to see these things that, like, yeah, if you're a fan of the franchise, you can look and see little pieces like, oh man, Spock just found out that old Spock died, like, and that fucked with him a little bit, and like that's cool. Like, but if you didn't know that, like, Robin, I went to see it with Robin, she didn't see either of the other two movies, and she loved it.
Right.
So, like, that's important.
Yeah.
You can't just jump into these things and make it so deep where you're not going to enjoy it on the thing. And so I don't want to see for all of the Marvel love that I throw, I don't want everyone else to fucking be like, ooh, that makes money, let's do that, because it's not right for everything.
Right. So
I applaud the filmmakers for this film because it is exactly what I want a summer popcorn movie to be, and B, a franchise film to be. It fits it's a square peg in a square hole, and it all fucking works.
Written by Simon
Pegg. It's a peg.
It's a big hole.
It's a peg. It's a peg hole. Simon Pegg, God bless you, and God bless your career, and God bless the rest of what you do.
Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright have my dollars, sewn up
infinitely. So, guys, if you keep making movies, it doesn't even matter if it's literally a goldfish swimming for 2 hours. I'll still pay you for it.
Yeah, I'm in. And yeah, go watch Space. Space is so good.
It's so good. It made me learn the second language that all men know.
Oh, I've forgotten that.
Which is when, I don't know if you know this, but if I started going...
Oh, yeah. I'm out
and
the
you
way.
you dodge it, and then you go, tink, and you throw a grenade. There's this sort of innate thing where dudes, if you fire like finger guns at them and make gun noises, they'll either dodge or do it back.
Yeah.
And that's the first time that someone's called that out in Space, and I was like, this is brilliant.
I agree with everything you said. It's the first time we've done this in a while, I think, that we've... there's a lot of antagonism in this room, but there's a lot of love in this room this time.
I thought... You know what though? It's funny because when I was
and
watching
that's what the film is about.
Yeah, so we came together. We did what Star Trek. This is a very Federation review.
Yeah.
I didn't think you would hate this, honestly,
No.
and I don't know. I don't know what the hell that is, but maybe it just it checks all the right boxes for what it is.
I think the thing. This is what I'm looking for when I want to see a big dumb movie. Like it's not it's not
Sure.
that dumb. And
Not that dumb.
I think the thing is that. The other movies that we've been talking about are offensively dumb to me.
Which I disagree a lot, and we know that. But
well, apparently you agree with me, having re-listened to one of our reviews.
I guess dumb, it translates a lot of times to me to fun, and that's when we break apart. Much like the Enterprise in this film.
Side note, unrelated to your thing, sad that we lost Anton Yelchin this year. Lost too early, and I was doing a project... recently where I had to research his past films and stuff, and he just seemed from what I read and from the people we interviewed, he seemed like a very lovely, genuine person, and I think his screen presence in this film was just that. It was lovely. He seemed like it was nice to see him on screen, and he's always like a welcome, warm presence on screen. So it was sad to have lost him. He's made so many freaking movies. He's achieved so much at a young age.
It just sucks.
It's sad. Life goes on, but it's sad that we won't be seeing any more of his Chekhov or any more of his films.
Yeah.
That's very unfortunate.
But yeah, so guys, I guess this has been the only podcast about Star Trek Beyond.
Yeah. I want to introduce a new thing that I want to try out with you, Matt.
What do you mean?
A new thing. I'm allowed to do new things, right?
As long as you keep 80% of your clothes on, yeah.
Oh, well,
so
okay.
do a different new thing than you were thinking.
So it's come to my attention recently, not having recently gotten a Hulu subscription, but having a Hulu subscription, that almost the entire Criterion collection, which is basically the only form of media that I try to buy or go out of my way to buy these days, Criterion Blu-rays, is available on Hulu. So I'm starting a new section on the only podcast about movies called The Criterion Corner.
Oh, fuck you.
The Criterion Corner.
Fuck that name.
The Criterion Corner.
Not that I dislike Criterion films, but I love that you've painted yourself in this little box as like, these are the only films that I buy. This arbitrary, it's not arbitrary, but this list that people have made.
No, what I love about the Criterion Collection, if anyone's into buying physical media, and Jacob on our Facebook page and I had a good long conversation about why should you buy physical DVD Blu-rays anymore?
Because they're sick.
And I kind of like having a thing in my hand and owning it, but there's no having the Criterion Collection on Hulu. Like for $7.99 a month or whatever the fuck it cost is kind of amazing. I have access to all these movies that are hard to find.
Right. So what the fuck are you doing in your corner?
Oh my God. I can't believe how hostile you are to me, trying to expose people to...
You decide that you're just going to do this thing. Whatever. It's fine.
You could have your own thing if you want.
No, I don't want it. I thought
So I'm going to just call out a movie that's available on the Criterion Collection on Hulu, or you could just buy it from the Criterion if you want. And this week I'm going to call out a film from a guy who made a trilogy that I think we should review at some point, Krzysztof Kieślowski, who made the Decalogue series, Red, White, and Blue, The Double Life of Veronique, and many others. And the film I wanted to call out was a short film about love, which was a film that broke away from the Decalogue and was released in a longer form.
Okay.
Kieślowski decided to make a film about each of the 10 commandments. In love,
not to be confused with the 10.
Yeah. And that was the Decalogue, and a short film about love is one of them, which is ostensibly about stalking, which is quite strange to say.
Thou shalt not stalk?
Well, it's more that love is gleaned from a distant admirer, a person who lives across the way in one building, who sees a woman that he loves, whom he falls in love with in another building. And the film has certainly dated, and it is not of this time anymore. And
Sure.
it's not, so it feels very dated.
So far, you're selling me.
But there is what's amazing is Kozlowski is taking the idea of love and he translates it into this ostensibly very difficult story, and the final moment is just beautiful, where basically the woman he's been stalking.
Are you going to spoil the final moment?
Look, it's a movie from 1970 something. If we haven't talked about it at this point, I think we're in spoiler zones.
But you're telling people to watch it.
Go watch it. If you have watched it, I think the thing about the movie is the way in which love transcends our boundaries of what's right and wrong. And that's what's beautiful about the last moment in that film.
Okay.
I'm going to do a Criterion Corner film at the end of every episode from now on. So if you have seen...
Wait, from now on?
Fuck you, Matt. That's what I'm doing. And as a co-host of this show, I'm taking my right to do so.
Wow.
So if you see something, I'm going to try and watch a Criterion film from now on the Hulu, on Hulu. And I'm not suggesting that Criterion is like the be all and end all. I just think they have an amazing collection of films that we should dig into if you can. If you see something on Criterion that you want me to watch, point it out and I will try to do so.
Wow. Okay. Well, apparently Shahir has decided that the Federation isn't working and wants to become more of a militaristic presence that inflicts its will onto the rest of the show.
I'm going to find a movie for you to watch, Matt, on the Criterion Collection. But you can do that.
Is it going to be Chasing Amy? Because it's probably going to be Chasing Amy.
It's on the Criterion Collection.
That's why I said it. I'm not a Philistine. I know what's on the fucking Criterion Collection. I'm just making fun of you for making a thing and not telling me about it.
That movie doesn't hold up. Even though I loved it when I was younger.
I know it does.
You can reach us at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com or on our Twitter at onlymoviepod, or hit us up on our Facebook page as well. And Matt, where can you hit us up live?
Oh, you can hit us up live, like we said before, at PAX, September 2nd, 6 p.m. at the Sphinx Theater. We're going to be doing Getting Good at Making Video Game Movies. We're going to fix Hollywood, people. You can also find me at MatthewKroll.com, also on Instagram, Skeletor, the number 4, PREZ, and Emperor MSK on Twitter. Shahir, you have a website.
www.shahirdaud.com, SHAHIRDAUD.com. That's where you can find all my shit. Because unlike Matt, I have consolidated my shit.
Yeah, I know. And next week, we're going to be doing something fun. We're going to have a guest.
We're going to have a guest, yes, and we're going to do a film that was requested to us.
That's right. But a newer one, so it checks off both boxes.
Yeah, The Childhood of Alita.
Yeah.
Directed by Brady Corbett, which is available right now on Amazon Instant and on iTunes. So please, before next week's review,
watch it.
Watch the movie.
And I don't know yet if it's worth us telling you to do that, but I'm just going to say to do it so we can all have a nice conversation. Anyway,
that's what we do here.
This is, yes, quote, nice conversations. Leave us some reviews on iTunes. Leave us some love or some hate or some something. Guys, thank you so much.
Leave us a big poop emoji on iTunes.
Poop emoji, 5 stars.
Yeah.